Welcome to Biblical Insights with David Gooding, a Myrtlefield House podcast.
When we study Scripture, we ask two basic questions. What does it say? Why does it say it?
What I'm doing, therefore, is looking for what I would call the thought flow.
This is not just a philosophical theory. This gospel actually works.
Let me tell God what I think of God. Let God take all so long as God be mine.
It's no secret that Christians can sometimes find worship difficult. What does it mean? And what is the true purpose of worship? Is there a right way to do it? In this first episode, Dr. Gooding looks at the life of Abraham and how he became an example for us of someone who saw the magnificence of God and responded to Him. Please join us as we come to listen to God's Word teach us what worship is and how to practice it, so that we can be better prepared to offer ourselves to our Creator.
What would I feel like if presently God spoke out of heaven and said, "Gooding, what are you trying to do?" And I said, "Lord, I was trying to worship you. I found it a difficult job, Lord." My worship is going to be anything, then it must be my almost instinctive response, channeled by my intelligence, but my instinctive response to some glory of God that I have perceived. Or if I might come a bit higher, suppose I had been asked, and I never would be, to come and help you make a proper response to good music. I could, I suppose, suggest to you that if you would save your face when the concert is finished, that you should say something like, "How superb! Wasn't the flautist very graceful? That's one of his best compositions, I think." Or if you really wanted to pose as a cognoscenti, you would say, "I don't think that's up to his normal standards." What use would it be? I could teach a parrot to say that. And alas, once I had taught the parrot to say it, the trouble is he'd go on saying it and saying it and saying it and keep on using the same expressions every week the same expression. Till it became evident to all who heard that my parrot was merely speaking empty phrases. And worse still, he didn't even know what they meant. And I must be careful in my worship, must I not, of not becoming a parrot. It seemed to me, therefore, that if I would lead you in thinking of worship as adoration of God, what I must do is to talk to you about God Himself, and pray that as I do so, God, by His Spirit, will show you something of Him. It will instinctively call out your response of adoration. If you will help me to worship God in this sense, my brother, tell me, yes, how He has brought me, delivered me out of darkness. Tell me about that darkness until I feel it in my very bones. Gratitude fills my heart when I think of what I have been rescued from. Tell me, too, about that marvelous light into which God has brought me, and tell me of those 10,000 blessings that God has given me and shall yet provide. But when you've done that, go further, pray, go further. Tell me not about the darkness merely, nor about the light, but tell me of the virtues of him that called me. Tell me that if God had been a different kind of God from what he is, I must have perished forever. Tell me about the virtues of him that called me out of darkness into his light, till the greater wonder is not the blessing he has given, but the wonder that he is the kind of God he is. For this it is evident we shall need to know God. And you will see a difference between gratitude for gifts and adoration. Sometimes there come tumbling through our letterboxes, a packet or so. Inside the packet, perhaps, is a book. Some enterprising advertising firm has sent it along with their compliments and other ulterior motives. And as you open the package, you say, well, I don't know these people who sent me this book. This is a jolly fine book. I don't know the man who wrote the address, but whoever he is, I feel very grateful for the book. It's a lovely book. You can feel gratitude without knowing the giver. You'll scarcely adore God without knowing God. But example is better than precept. I start with Abraham's obscure servant. Part of that delightful tale, how Abram in his old age sought a bride and wife for his son Isaac, and sent his servant down to his kindred, to that far-off country, to find a suitable girl. And the servant went, burdened with his responsibility. A difficult task, you might think yourself, in any circumstance to do any such thing. Choosing a wife for oneself is difficult enough. Choosing her for somebody else must be extraordinarily difficult. It wasn't really that. Abram was a sheik of great riches. He might be choosy on those grounds, just who married his only son. Way beyond that, too, went the fact that Abraham was God's friend, chosen of God to play a unique role in history, and the seed of Abraham. Privileged of God indeed, to carry the divine purpose down the centuries. This was no small task, to find a wife for Isaac. And he went and came at length to a place and used his common sense and judgment, good man that he was. For meeting these girls, he proposed to one of them that she should give him to drink. And the dear woman not only gave him to drink, but volunteered to give his camels drink to well. A good augury of what she might do for Isaac in the home on Monday afternoons, when the wedding was long since past. Then presently he inquired who the girl might be, and found the girl was none other than a distant relative of the very same family of Abraham. And in that moment, it was as though for an instant a veil had been drawn aside, and the servant saw something of God and the wonder of God. Blessed be God, said he, that has not abandoned his truth and faithfulness towards my master Abraham. You notice what the man is saying, don't you? He's not saying, "Oh God, how marvelously kind for you to have picked a girl so gloriously looking. Oh, Isaac will be pleased with her." He was indeed when he got her. That was true. And gratitude might well have expressed itself in those terms, at least from Isaac. But at this moment, it wasn't at the girl's beauty that the man was looking. He was looking up into heaven, and had now caught vivid sight of the faithfulness of God, the wonder of his providences that behind the scenes control our lives. When the going is easy and when the going is difficult, and when on times for months on end we see no evidence of the divine hand and our duties almost overwhelm us. But yet, now he saw, and all that while, God had been planning for his good. And left to himself, God had been faithful, and God had been merciful. All the wonder that the God of heaven should descend to such a small detail and guide that man so precisely. You think of the places he could have gone, to the girls that would have been all too willing to say yes. And the sense that God is so big, that his providences concern themselves so precisely, and that he is faithful and true. In that moment, it was as though a veil had been drawn aside, and he saw into the very heart of God. Before the veil came back again, he bowed his head and worshipped God. I know not what 1,001 blessings have come your way this week. I know you are grateful for them. From time to time, has it not so been with you? That it was not so much the gift given, it was the insight it gave you into the wonder of God's providence and the precision of his timings and the sense of his faithfulness. Thus was it with that great example of worship that we read of in chapter 22, where Abram with his only son climbed Mount Moriah to offer him upon the altar. Pray, Abram, what is it you intend as you climb this mountain to lay your only son upon an altar? What is it you intend? Says Abram, we go to worship. Worship? Abram, are you going to have a meeting of thanksgiving up on the mountain and rehearse in the ears of God all the wonders of the benefits that he has given you? No, not today. That Abram had done 1,000 times and more in the days that were past. He had gifts of sheep and oxen, of servants and men servants and maid servants, and wealth beyond computation. Doubtless he had many times thanked God for his gift. But today wasn't to be a Thanksgiving meeting for gifts. This day, God had asked him to take the sublimest gift, the gift that made sense of all the other gifts, the thing without which life was empty and nothing apart from God. God had asked Abram to give it back to God. I say, Abram, kind of a God is that? That would give you a gift one day and take it away the next. Go you, Abram, to offer your son because you are afraid of his lightning, lest he strike you dead if you don't surrender your son? Nonsense, says Abram. I go to give my all to God. I go to worship him. What were all his gifts had I not God? Let me tell God what I think of God. Though I had all heaven and 10,000 galaxies beside, and had not God himself, how immeasurably poverty-stricken should I be? Let God take all so long as God be mine. I go to tell him that. I go to tell him more. God has said that in Isaac shall my seed be called. I cannot tell you how he will do it. Will he raise him from the dead, or what will he do? I cannot tell you. I go to tell him what I think of him. I will offer my son as he tells me to, and I will tell him that I believe that he's not a God of the yes and no, a God who says yes today and no tomorrow. I shall tell him I believe he is a God of utter consistency, true to his word, though heaven and hell fall apart. If he has said he will bless me and Isaac, he will bless me, though now I put him on this altar. I go to tell God what I think of God, and I shall not wait till the sun shines. I shall not wait till he gives me Isaac back and the warmth of the summer sun begins to unfreeze my heart. Now, in the dark moment, in the flood of the trial, I want to tell God now, God is my all, my magnificent God. And I want to tell him I trust him now. Yes, I shall tell him that in the sunshine of heaven, when it's all come right in the end. That'll be easy to do. I should be ashamed to turn up there and join the choir at that late stage, says Abram. I'll do it now. And he took his all and put it on the altar. And together, Abram and his son, they worshipped God. God induce in our hearts such appreciation of himself that we too might be found in this vale of tears as those who thus think well of God.
Thank you for listening to Biblical Insights with David Gooding. If you're interested in more of Dr. Gooding's teachings, check out our other podcast series or visit our website, myrtlefieldhouse.com, for free ebooks, sermons, and study notes.